Hey everybody. All right. So testing mics and everything seems to be working and I am good to go there and I want to make sure this is let me open a new one. I'm feeling a little under the weather today. Not sure why, but whatever. So I want to make sure this is here. That should be good to go. Need to expand that to right about there. Great. And now, dun dun dun, open in studio, and this should now be live. Great. Ta-da! Yay. All right. So today, one of the things I was going to do is cover some Next.js stuff. I talked about Next.js yesterday. Big fan of it. There's a lot of different React frameworks out there, and everyone's like, React is a framework. So there's frameworks actually built on top of it, like Next.js, that does a lot of things. So what I want what I want to do today, hold on, I'm gonna be right back. I need to get something to drink. I will be right back. All right, let's go. Okay, I'm back. Sound a little bit better. Anyway, so I was going to talk about Next.js and go through some of that. And I talked about it yesterday and how I got my website to be 100 on Lighthouse across the board, everything. There's some nuances of getting truly 100. Run the test a few times and you'll actually see it. But regardless, it works and it's actually kind of cool. Uh, so what I want to do today is literally show you how easy it is to get up and running with Next.js. And I'm going to take you from opening a terminal window with absolutely nothing and then have a website, the default website running. It literally takes minutes. Because this is my daily, it's not my big podcast. I'm not doing this full tutorial and like, here's how you install Node and get your terminal set up and do all of that. I mean, I could go into that, but it's just a waste of time at this point. I might do a big tutorial. I've been looking at some of the tutorials that are already online. Some of them are okay, some of them are horrible. And I didn't realize how many tutorials out there that are just bad. Uh, anyway, I won't call anyone out specifically, but there are some bad ones out there. So, anyway, I'm going to take you through a new one. And I want to get a new environment set up with a new window. Let me get all of that lined up. Uh, Great. And then open folder, yeah. Do do do. CD projects. Get a quick directory. Make directory. This is Next.js. CD Next.js. There. Let's open that. Okay. So now I'm going to show you. Let's see if I can get that code up and running. And I don't need this welcome screen. Great. And I will open this. That should open here. Great. So now let me take you there. So if I come into OBS and this isn't even, oh, there we go. So if I do this and this doesn't work, there we go. That was weird. Little issues with the Stream Deck this morning. It's always something, right? Uh, Seems to be working great. So let's see if this works. Yeah, that does. And I'm back here. And then if I go back to OBS, I should have a button for OBS. There we go. Let's move this over here. All right, so now that I'm here, I am in a directory. Oops, sorry. Thought I was in Windows for a second. LS gets a directory. As you can see, there are no files. If I create a file, touch test.md or readme. Let's do a readme. Readme.md. That will create a readme file that has nothing in it. Hello world, because that's what we do, right? So now I have a new file, and it is here. I'll make it even bigger so we can all read it together. Great, and that's it. But now I want to kick off Next.js. So, and I'm even going to show you how to find these things. So rather than come back to this video, you can find it yourself on a website. So let's go into Next.js. So you go to Next.js. We do get started. Main features, blah, blah, prerequisites, installation. So we are going to do this. So this will actually create an app. So we're going to do that right here. Create next app, and I will call it hello. Here, we'll call it startups because that's what's fun. All right, so npx create next app. I'm running the latest. I run this. It will install this. Yes. Would you like to use TypeScript? That's up to you. I'm going to say no in this case. Would you like to use ESLint? That is a linter which basically reviews your scripts. Sure. Do I want to use Tailwind? No. Would you like to use the source directory? Sure. Do you like to use App Router? Yes. And it even says it's recommended. Would you like to customize the default import alias? I'm going to say no. Great. So now it's doing this, going, and you can see it already created the startups directory. It's installing the dev dependencies. Great. So now that should actually work. So if I go into startups right from here, cd startups, and I get a directory, it even created a README file. It's kind of nice. Node modules, package.json. So let's open this and let's see what's actually in here. So next, super empty config, JS config. There's my compiler options. There's nothing else in there. And the package JSON, right? Next dev. So I'm not even gonna I'm sure there's node modules already installed, right? There's all of these packages. So generally I would do npm install just to make sure everything's installed, but I don't want to do that. I want to see how clean this install actually is. So I'm literally going to just do npm run dev. That means from the creation, haven't done anything other than that original command, which was the npx create next app at the latest startup. So now I went into the directory and I'm going to do npm run dev. And allegedly it is now working on localhost. Let's see. Boom, boom. And there it is. That easy. So now I have it. And wow, this looks actually way different than the one I used to use. So I haven't even upgraded. So this is nice. Kudos to Next for cleaning up their interface. All right, so let's make a change. Let's change the learn. So now that I'm here, I will go into source, go into page, and let's see what's in page. Anything here? Learn. So I was like, I'll call it YouTube. Didn't have to refresh, didn't have to do anything. And just to show you how great this is, I'm going to keep that right there. And I'm going to move this over. Let's get rid of this. I want to make sure you can see this. Yep, so you can see the YouTube right here. And I'm going to change this and say new label. And I'm going to save it. And just like that, it recompiles it and automatically updates the website. Let's try. Let's put it back to YouTube. Learn about startups and code in an interactive course. And we'll just say that. And save. Boom. It's that quick. It's that fast. It's really fun for quick development of websites. And like everything that you always want in a website building, it just works. So let's inspect this and let's test it out. So because we did Lighthouse yesterday, I don't know if this will work on localhost. We'll see. Best practice not followed. But even, let's see what's going on with the best practice. This isn't on a incognito window. Like I said yesterday, we should be using an incognito window if we're going to do this. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to open a new incognito window. And then I'll do localhost 3000. And then I'm going to inspect. And then I am going to do a Lighthouse run on this. Analyze page load. So it does work on localhost. I wasn't sure. I sometimes see, look at that. That's amazing. And that is the default of Next.js. So anything that, and I want 100. Like I said, sometimes if you run it multiple times, you'll get different results. That 99, it's still hovering at 99. I wonder why. Diagnostics, rendering, blocking, potential savings in 90 milliseconds, and unused JavaScript. I'm okay with a 99 at this point, but keep in mind, that's what it's like out of the box. So if you have done something that slows your website down, that's on you. So make sure you write clean code. And this is a decent layout, static site, really clean. There's a lot more you can do with Next.js, and I can probably get into it maybe more tomorrow. And maybe I'll do a full tutorial on Next.js because it's pretty nice. Vercel loves pushing themselves and deploying on there. They get expensive if you scale to a real size. I think that's true about anything that's hosted outside on anybody's service. They're like, if you make more money, we want to make more money. Rather than it's a static website, but CDNs cost and network traffic and bandwidth and things like that. Anyway, I understand why there's a cost involved in all of that. What I'm what I'm getting to is I love Firebase. I am a huge Firebase fan. I will push Firebase not because I work there or have ever worked there. I just really, really like it. So what I can do is a Next.js build out static site generation, and then take that static site and push that to Firebase and do a full tutorial. And that will be an end-to-end tutorial because I've seen some really bad ones out there, and everyone's like, if you use Vercel, everything will just work great. True statement. Uh, What if you don't want to use them? What if you want to not be tied to this entire ecosystem? For those who have used Macs for a long period of time, everyone's like, oh, I have a Mac. So it's just so much easier if I just have an iPhone. Well, that's on you. I have an Android phone. I have a Surface. I also have a MacBook, right? I'm a Windows guy, always have been until I joined an agency and they handed me a MacBook. And I became an Apple person. Uh, and huge fan of the Apple OS and how easy it is to actually get things up and running. What I have learned by using Apple products from Windows products is the most important thing of any application or even operating system is ease of use. Functionality is secondary in regards to all these wonderful features. If you have, let's say, 1,000 features and people are using 10, because that's the reality, those 10 features better be the best 10 features on the planet. And if you can use those 10 features really, really well, the other 990, they don't need. Don't bloat your software. It used to be called bloatware a long time ago. Um, it's bad. It's just the the best developers write the cleanest code and the highest praise of anything that I can see in a code review is when you have deleted lines of code, right? The less is more in regards to development. And I'm a big fan of that. So, all of that being said, Next.js is great. I will do a tutorial. I'm committing to it now on Next.js and with a deployment all the way to Firebase. Shouldn't take that long because you saw how easy it is to get Next.js up. I'll do some other tweaks like I don't like Tailwind. I've used Bootstrap in the past, but there is so much stuff in a lot of those uh, CSS frameworks, or yeah, I would say frameworks, CSS frameworks that you don't need. And it all it does is just bloat your website and slow things down. If you could actually reduce it to just some real, like, one of the things I loved about Bootstrap is you could actually select what you wanted and say, I only want these three components. I don't need all of Bootstrap. Great. Huge fan of Font Awesome. Allows you to do some really fun font stuff really, really quickly. And by doing that, you can do you can do some really cool like social media icons. Everyone's like, oh, follow, quick, share, right, like, subscribe, all of that. You can do all of that with Font Awesome. It will actually include all the icons for you. You don't have to go hunting down on the web of what icons you need. It will actually give you a consistent look and feel of the icons that you're using. Great framework. So that with some layout things that will actually handle responsive pretty well, that should be all you need. You don't need the other 500 defaults of buttons that you'll never get to, right? Or grids or tables or all of that, right? It does a lot of that, which is nice, but I don't think you need all of that. And less is more. It's kind of the motto of today. Uh, Keep things simple. Right now, Next.js is really, really simple. Here, let me actually go through the code again. So if I come back to here and you are looking at uh, this simple website, uh, and I will open this, right? So in here, it has a CSS file, which look how much it generated. And this is just the default, right? Keyframes, it has rotations, tablet and smaller desktops, how to handle all of that. So this CSS straight out of the box is over 200 lines of code. And then there's a global CSS, which is all the way up here, which is another 100 lines of code, over 100. And then there's the page, which is actually the default page, not even 100 line, and then the layout of what it's actually doing. And this is metadata, the root layout, and all it does is load the children. For those familiar with React, you are passing in properties and props come all the way down, and those get passed through. Whatever. Uh, this is not a React class today. Page module CSS. So in this page module CSS, I scroll all the way to the top. Display flex column, right? And it does the minimum height of VH. So this is actually handling a lot of the layout stuff for you, which is really nice. But if you go into layouts, what does this import? This imports global. So this one's importing global, and I believe this one is importing the page module, right? So your layout is loading this CSS, which is basically all of your basic variables and fonts and things that you're using. And this one right here, is actually laying out your actual page. So the breakdown of the CSS here is actually kind of nice. I'm a big fan of Sass. If you're going to do CSS, you should use Sass. If you aren't using Sass, you should. Just period, point blank. If you don't know what Sass is, here I'll show you real quick. CSS, and it is this. And why is it so good? Learn Sass. Here, install. Mainly because it allows you to. The main reason. Oh wow! It's got a brew install now. That's kind of nice. The main reason for using Sass is it actually does a lot of the things for you. SCSS or Sass. It will actually, if you do a hierarchy, so you know how you have to do multiple CSS, and if you want hover state, you have to actually do a tag that will actually include it. I'll show you what I mean. I think that's the easiest way to do it. So I will actually, we can do it real time. Let me go back to localhost. And we'll do localhost 3000. Should still be running. Great. And I'll do a hover state on this, on the YouTube one. So let's go to the page. 723. Yeah. And I come here and let's find that YouTube docs. Getting started by editing. What happened to it? It was on page, wasn't it? Oh, there it is, right here. So great. This has an H2. I'm going to give it a class of hover me. Okay. Super simple. Just to make sure nothing changed, but it should, if I inspect this, it should have a class now called hover me, and it does. Right. So if I come back to, I want to make sure you can see that. Yeah, you can see. Great. And hover me. Great. So let's come back. So now I have a class called hover me. I will save this. That looks good. Oh, I wonder what your opinions are at single quotes and double quotes on attributes. I don't know. I just like to be consistent. So the default for Next.js is obviously double quotes. So I'll use double quotes. Great. So now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to actually create. I want to make sure it's not part of a media query. Tablets and smaller. I want to make sure that I'm part of the right thing. There's mobile. There's another media query. Media queries. Center, 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 card. Yeah, there's so much, right? Probably delete all of this and just simplify the whole thing. I'll just put it right after main, just so you can see it. All right, so I'm gonna call a class called hover me, and I will do color red. Right. So if I come back here, Hey, I shouldn't have to refresh it. Didn't like that. What happened? Extra attributes from the CZ. I don't know what that is. That didn't work. Had to pull from Hover Me. That is what I called it, right? Last name Hover Me. Come back here. Hover Me. Here, we'll make it very specific. Is something overriding it? The joys of CSS. It is called class Hover Me, but it doesn't look like it's inheriting that class. So let's figure out why. Page module, that seems good. Class name, import styles dot page module. Maybe I didn't save that. It is still not saving it. All right, we're gonna do an npm run dev and restart it and do a hard refresh. And it's loading, compiled. Great. Still not showing it. H2 block class hover me. And this, here, let's just see if I do color red. Okay, so you can do it. Not sure why that class isn't getting applied, so let's figure out. But it's not that it's not getting applied, it's actually not even getting loaded. So let's get rid of that. Boom, delete, don't want that. Back to white, great. And now let's see. Page module CSS, page module CSS, H2 hover me here. H2 page card, page CSS, static CSS at page layout. Refresh had to read more about, yeah. Oh, this is fun. All right, let's see if I put it in the global. Should not have to do this, just for the record. All right, global worked. Let's see if it does work. So we're gonna load this. I'm gonna get rid of this for now. Move this a little bit over so we can see it. Move this a little bit over. And you can see it real time. So purple, save, done. Reference to the public code and recent suggestion. Yeah, go away. Let's change it back to red. Save, great. Yellow, save, great. But the question is, why is that not working from the page module? Because it should be. So let's go back to page. And I'm gonna come back here. Let's figure that out. Because you know I need to. Welcome to development. You get obsessed with something and you need to figure it out. And that is how I write code. So let's figure this out. All right, so page module. Why is this not being here? Let's see if I can do min height. No. What if I do a color here? Background color, green. Yeah, so generally when I'm doing these kind of tests, what I want to do is actually do something crazy off the top so it'll stand out when I do it. So then if I come into here, okay, so that actually did load it, right? So if I do background color purple, let me move this down here so we can see this. And I'll move this over. So yeah, that's actually working. And it is making those changes, which is crazy. So I'm going to change this back to black. Yeah, great. What if I get rid of the background color completely? That's perfect. All right. So now if I add a class, uh, hover me, we'll do background color green. Interesting. We'll do custom class. Great. So now I come here and I do this, and what I'm going to do is set that. Oh, because these are not, they're generated styles. If you notice that, so you see how this is property and it's not a hard coded value here? It's because it needs, and I will do styles dot hover me. So I'm going to do that. And now I'm willing to bet if I come over here and I do hover me. Yep. Problem solved. So let's actually make that. Let's go color red. And now you can see everything's changing down here. Right? So why? Why? But it worked on the global, right? So let's talk about that real quick. So this is importing the styles. See this right here? This is a named object that is importing it from here. So what this is doing is creating an object with all of the properties or all of the classes from here. So when I create a class, oh, when I create a class here, it's actually getting inserted into this object called styles. So that means over here, I will actually need to reference that style through the object, not through a hard-coded value, which is really kind of cool. And I'll show you why. So now when I come here and I inspect this, and I think if I did it right, yeah. Yeah. So what it does, you can see the actual name right here is called Hover Me, but it's got this other garbage after it, right? And what that does is that makes it unique. And it will actually generate unique classes because I'm doing an import and it's doing all of these additional things, and we'll add all of that afterwards. What's really cool about that is if you're using this with, let's say, oh, I don't know, Tailwind. Tailwind will have its own classes. And let's say you have a designer that's actually working on their own CSS. Their class names should be imported this way because then it will actually generate a final version of that. They can use their own naming conventions and you can use your naming conventions. Obviously, you want to use the same naming conventions. But Next actually handles all of that. So when you actually do it, it will actually do so much more in regards to generating that to avoid collision and overrides and things like that. Because if I have a Hover Me class and you have a Hover Me class, last one wins, cascading style sheets. Yay, that's what CSS stands for those who don't know. But what's really cool about that is the last one wins. But if you have a version and I have a version and we're both using the same class, but we're doing an import, that will actually allow it to actually do the whole thing correctly. So it will not be a collision detection. It will just be a naming convention issue at that point, and it will solve a lot of that for you. Um, that's really cool. I haven't played with Next. I guess I've played with it a little bit, but really nice to use imports rather than hard coding things. Obviously, don't hard code things, keep things simple, delete as much as you can, and it will make your code so much cleaner. Um, I guess that's about all I wanted to talk about today. That was actually more than I wanted to talk about today. So let's see if this is working. There we go. Um, cool. That's all I had. Pretty excited. Hope you're having a great day. It is Thursday, March 7th. Um, Not sure why I decided to say that today. Anyway, I will go grab some more coffee and hopefully you are gonna have a great day. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll do more Next.js stuff. It's kind of fun. Um, Real-time development's always kind of crazy. I will work on a tutorial that will actually take a Next.js static site generated and then move that to Firebase from scratch. I might even create a new account uh, from scratch on Google, and that account I'll actually go all the way to setting up Firebase and doing things like that. Because one of the things I've seen about tutorials, okay, I can't stop. I'm pretty excited about this. One of the big problems for those of you creating tutorials and are watching this is you assume too much. Is you're like, all right, everyone brew install, blah, blah, blah. Whoa, I'm gonna Windows, what's brew? Right? You're jumping to you're assuming that one, they're on a Mac, two, they have brew installed, three, they know what actually brew is doing, and don't. Like, there's a lot of people that one aren't on Macs, which is kind of exciting, and they're using, like, there's a, who is it, DHH, so this uh a guy I'm a huge fan of, right? So Jason and DHA, Jason Fried and DHH created a book called Rework. I will talk about that book for the rest of my life because it was life changing. Highly recommended. But DHH recently posted, he's like, I'm out of the MacBook ecosystem and I'm moving back to Windows, and he's moving forward with that. Uh, for those who don't know, he's the one who created Ruby on Rails. Yeah, so some street cred in regards to, I guess it's not street cred, it's code cred. So code cred for him. Uh, but don't assume things when you're creating tutorials. Assume they know nothing and start from the very, very basics of, like, how do you open a terminal? What does the CD command do, right? How do I, is that create directory? Oh, what do you mean? How do I create a directory? What do you mean I have to do mkdir to make a directory? Shouldn't cd be create directory? No, it's change directory, right? And what is ls? What is it? What less what, right? And for those who have been coding for any point in time, those terminal commands are very, very simple. But for those who are just getting started, they don't know what ls is. They don't know what a terminal is. They don't know, uh they don't have any experience with that. And it's not that they haven't been, it's because they haven't been doing it. And I was blessed enough to actually teach for several years, right? I taught at General Assembly, I've taught at Bellevue College, and it is amazing when you teach something, the amount of questions that you get that show you how much you're assuming. You're like, hey, my code's not working, right? And it might be something as simple as they're missing a semicolon, or it might be something as complicated as their logic is working on every third time and there's a race condition in regards to that, right? Those are harder ones to solve. But don't assume when you're doing a tutorial to start from the very ground level. It will be so much more useful to the people that are actually watching your content and and trying to learn from you. And they won't get irritated and you won't get trolled because like, oh, they're saying they're talking all this babbly gook and whatever. And all of that is just because you haven't taken the time to explain the foundation. You need to explain the foundation to people so they understand what they're building. With Next.js, I literally did one line of code, right? And if you watch this daily, you'd be like, oh, well, that one line of code, that was super simple. Well, I took a lot of assumptions because this is the daily and not a tutorial. In the daily, I assumed you know how to open a terminal. I assumed you already have Node installed. I assume you already know what NPX is, right? Don't assume anything when you're teaching. They can actually help you when you have that interaction, and as you interact with them, they'll be like, "Oh, I already know all that." Great. So you're going to have those accelerated students, and then you're going to have the new students, right? Who don't have all of that experience. You'll always have that one student who is going to stand out and be like, "Oh, I've done all this. I did this in 4th grade and I'm an amazing developer." Yeah, good for them, right? You know how you leverage them? Have them be your TA and have them help the other students who aren't as advanced as they are. Really life changing when you actually take that accelerated student and have them start teaching the other people because they'll realize what they don't know too by teaching it. You want to get really good at something, do it multiple times. You want to get great at something, teach it. I'll end on that note. So thanks again and have a wonderful day. All right, bye.